Welcome to the first video in the Data Services series. Here we are.
We've made it.
It means you guys have finished foundation. And you thought that that stuff was technical. Wait till you get into this stuff. Are you happy to get the easy stuff out of the way?
Oh, it's been good. It's been fun, but it's time to move on. So in this example here, if we drew a LAN on the edge of this CPE here,
Yep, I can do that.
and we'll just call it network A.
Yep.
All right, so we won't worry too much about what the prefix is, we'll just call it A. And the router might have an interface at A.1.
Yep.
And we might have a printer at A.23,
Sure.
etc., and then we'll have some PCs A.50 to A.99. But multi-purpose, again, is about VLAN trunking on the access service. Now, in this particular example, rather than these purple clouds being different VPNs, imagine that they're perhaps a VPN and then an internet connection. Now, the other thing that's commonly misunderstood is that people often presume that anything to do with IPT has to be treated as a real-time delivery arrangement. As I've just mentioned, signalling doesn't have that requirement. Media does, but signalling, although it requires timely delivery, the first thing to recognise is that it's delivered in many cases either over UDP or it can be TCP, and it can be encrypted TCP in the form of a HTTPS stream, so SSL based.
Yep. Are you right there? Well, welcome to the first of the cloud videos.
As you would know from all of the stuff that we've done already in across the curriculum for this particular program, wherever we can, we do try to be more precise or provide an origin or an original meaning for terms. And that way we avoid that situation, which I have mentioned before, I know in other videos, when a term can mean everything, it doesn't mean anything. And this is another example of that. The chances are that your perception or your understanding of what cloud means is probably pretty
good.
reasonable. But still, there have been examples of where cloud, the term, came from, and we can use guidance from organisations like the US National Institute of Standards and Technology to give us some extra precision, some extra definition clarity, if you like, or definitive clarity, so that when you're talking to your customers, you can show a much more, perhaps a richer level of understanding than the typical professional.
I think we should play a game.
Okay.
All right, are you ready? We're going to pause for a second and get you to write down some bullet points on what you think cloud is. And when we come back, we'll see how many you match. Welcome back. I wonder how many people actually pause the video or just watched us on test pattern.
Or went to the book and just went tick, tick, tick. I would have said that, I would have said that.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot to remember, and you'd still say that it's maybe a level above concrete.
Yeah, okay, so how do we turn it into concrete? Something like that, say, a standards organisation would approve.
Turning a cloud into concrete.
That's
a good aim.
That's nice.
Well, NIST also came up with 5 essential attributes or characteristics of cloud that have to be there in order for it to be considered a cloud implementation.
Okay, let's look at those. And here they are. Breaking news. There's been an update, Chris, to service level availability targets.
The PGWs supporting the APNs for IP wireless are all located on the eastern seaboard. So in some cases you might find that you jump between states on your path.
Rush for a change of APJ.
Yes, delightful, delightful. Of course, it's not just eastern state EPGs today, you know. It's all about dedicated APNs and shared APNs. Dedicated APNs and shared APNs. It all comes down to where does the traffic go. In the end, if you've got a dedicated APN, you're using the 3 eastern state EPGs. If you're using shared APN, you're using one of a number of EPGs located in all of the major regions within Australia. There's several pairs of them, in fact. Refer to your notes for more information. But now, back to that very entertaining video.
Shame, really. At least that was reliable. Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud?
I'll be interested to see if this survives into the actual production.
And you know
video.
what? Don't mention that word contention again. Chris has gone to the loo, so I thought I might start this segment by myself.
No, I haven't. He said I can do this without you, so I've walked off set.
So let's just talk. I'm going to actually start talking about this because, as far as I can see, the non-complicated stuff when we're dealing with third-party data centers, as far as size is concerned, is what you can actually buy. You can buy a subrack, a rack, you can buy a cage, and then there's this nebulous thing called a vault. You're telling me that these are all the same?
Yeah.
They mean the same thing?
Yep. Sort of.
What language are you speaking other than total nerd?
Oh,
It probably is total
Yeah,
nerd.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
total geek.
Well, it's IP geek.
IP geek. Well,
Yeah.
can you tell us why these are all the same?
Whereas an IP man service can communicate freely with other accessors in the same state, when you want to go interstate, the WAP is a mechanism that makes sure that customers only can go interstate if they've actually paid to do so.
I always laugh. In my head, okay, is by day he's a mild-mannered solution architect. By night he becomes IP man. That's you, isn't it? That is you. It's all about cellular, which is, you know, current and changing and all that. But I'd love to go back to what it was like in the good old days. And maybe we can start off this series with an understanding of kind of the history behind cellular devices. Maybe even before then. I'd love to maybe have a look at some really, really old stuff. Should we do that?
Let's do it.
Via the magic of video, let's see if we can go there. Ready? I've been drawing stuff, Chris, but before I want to get to that, I want to do a bit of breakdancing. Oh, that's my interpretation of MIMO. That took you by surprise. Well, MIMO is multiple in, multiple out, right?
Yep.
And in a very simplistic term, I know I've been asked in what I would call very basic language to be able to try and describe how it works.
Sure.
And in one sense, it's like, here's one waveform, right? Here's another waveform, and we put two together, and you've got multiple in and multiple out.
Basically, that's pretty close to the
Or dancing.
How do I compete with
Oh,
that?
you don't.
Fundamentally, a steelhead is a type of salmon.
Right.
So riverbed
And salmon.
and salmon.
Yeah.
And
do it that way.
particular family of salmon.
I want to see what a steelhead looks like. It's like a big silver fish, isn't it?
Well,
Big silver fish.
I presume it's
I wish
big.
one would land in my hands right now. That's what it'd be like.
Put your
What a
hands
great
out, you
way to-
never know what might happen.
It was massive. It was like carting around a brick.
Well, it must have been longer than 20 years ago. Because 20 years ago I had phones like in the Matrix, That would have been 1999. You obviously got the hand-me-downs by the sounds.
I sure did.
Yeah, what about you, Chris?